So I've got a few minutes before my next class, and that's really annoying me. It's not straight. It's like I've not shot it properly. Please forgive. Let's pretend that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. Just move over here. And I blocked the light. Okay, so yeah. Oh no, it's not gonna work. I've got a question here that says, what are your thoughts on Cuties? Now look, Cuties is a bit of a mess at the minute. It's a 2020 film that was previously released at the Sundance Festival. It's a French translation movie that is supposed to talk about the sexualization of young children and how that conversation and that concept plays a role in our wider society. Now, it's come under fire recently for a number of issues. The first one is that it's changed the synopsis to one which has questionable undertones. So this is the original. The original is saying, Amy, 11, becomes fascinated with a twerking dance crew. Hoping to join them, she starts to explore her femininity, defying her family's traditions. Its new synopsis now reads, 11-year-old Amy starts to rebel against her conservative family traditions when she becomes fascinated with a free-spirited dance crew. Now, look, it's a very minor change, but it has connotations which I thought the person who was writing it in Netflix would have been aware. I mean, you have to be pretty good at copywriting, and to work at one of the biggest streaming platforms in the world, especially in the Western world, is a massive undertaking. So I'm a little bit suspicious. I mean, because now it's actually arguing in a weird way that the choice to rebel is one that's been made of her own volition. And when the film is supposed to be about a child and how child exploitation and child over-sexualization plays a role in our wider society, having the synopsis reflect a choice that a child is choosing to be sexualized is very weird. It definitely blurs the lines of consent, and if you're a person who doesn't believe children have sexual agency, it's very, very weird. The biggest issue, I think, of the movie is that so much of its marketing has changed to a way that, to say problematic is an understatement, because so much of its marketing now is around and about the sexualization of children. We've changed the name to Cuties, which implies a level of emotional enamory to it, if I'm using that word correctly. The film has problems, okay? The film has many problems. The reviewers have recognized that a lot of the clips shown, a lot of the marketing now is revolved around the story of the children doing sexualized things. There's the clips of them gyrating and rubbing their crotch and doing weird things in context of the movie, and taking out of context has correctly got a lot of people irate. The poster, for example, has changed from, a few little girls standing on a hilltop to a few little girls in compromising positions, which we would associate with sexualized positions. That conversations we've had around how female comic superheroes have been, not even just female, but actually a female widely, because not all of them are human. Female comic representations have been put into these same positions. We have the same as to why you're not allowed to have certain positions as adults, women, in the context of human women, in the wider context on television. We now have a conversation as to why these children are being shown in the movie doing this. And I understand from a filmmaking perspective that you want to capture as much of the movie world inside the movie as possible. However, a lot of other topics such as abuse more graphically, suicide is another one. A lot of it happens off screen. Even action movies, ones which are gritty and powerful, will have the whole person on the floor being beaten up, but the camera either zoomed in so you can't see someone getting stomped on quite literally, you just see their face going on the pavement, or you see like quite abstract where you just see a bunch of people and there's a melee, but you don't see someone actually getting kicked. It's implied that someone's being kicked. So there are other filmmaking techniques that could have gone into a lot of the scenes that have now been clipped out of context. So there's that conversation. We also have that conversation as to, it's just a movie versus, well, to make the movie you had to pay these children, and when you are either paying or even not paying, which might even be more problematic, these children, there's an element of coercion there, because if these children don't do the scene, they're not going to get paid to be in the movie, and so you can only agree to be in the movie to do the sexualized scenes so you can get paid, and money is something that everyone needs to survive at the moment. So there's an element of coercion there, not outright do this or you die, but definitely if you don't do this, there's going to be some other financial consequences which can affect other things in your life. Especially with all these children being so young, they can also be at a point where they're trying to get their careers off the ground. They might be trying to move out of just doing commercials, might just be moving out of that scene where they're doing modelling and cutesy fashion. And now they're trying to be seen as actresses, actors, and agents in the movie industry. So there's a massive issue here in terms of the power dynamic at play with this movie taking off. My thoughts, to answer the question more directly, is that I'm very uncomfortable with the movie. I am one of those people who do not believe children have sexual agency. However, I am very much aware that this is meant to be a coming-of-age movie, and coming-of-age movies are supposed to reflect a real-world perspective that children are finding their place in the world. They're trying to find out who they are, what their values are, what they like, what they dislike. Coming-of-age movies and being at prepubescent space. 11 years old here in the UK is when you start secondary school. Secondary school is a number of years where you have crushes, develop crushes, where you might have your first kiss, you might hold hands, you might touch body parts of somebody else consensually. You may be building your first relationship with someone else consensually. And as such, like, coming-of-age movie is supposed to have that conversation that who are you, what are your values, how do you find yourself, what are the pressures that you're up against. And Cuties kind of does that. If it's meant to be a film about talking about child sexualization and exploitation and over-sexualization more accurately, a coming-of-age movie would also have to talk about how these young children are going to moving into what we widely consider an over-sexualized world. With that being the case, like I said earlier, you don't have to actually sexualize the children to show that they're moving into an over-sexualized world. The other dilemma is that if this conversation is for adults to watch, or a conversation for adults to have, where they then talk about how children are exploited and sexualized and over-sexualized, and how this is negative on the children, and as a wider society we have a moral blind spot that needs to be shone a light on and eradicated, then this film hasn't really done that. So much of the film is wrapped up in the technical aspects, the plot points. Is so much wrapped up in the controversy as to how things have been lost in translation or deliberately mistranslated. The film has been lost in conversation as to what is our actual moral values of a society. And also, with it being so widely available on, like I said earlier, one of the biggest streaming platforms in the world, we now have a wider issue as to who has access to these clips. And if it's about critiquing wider society, having this film feature in wider society is a massive problem, where people have access to it at their own volition because it's implied that it's now going to be a child porn text. Is that over dramatized? I don't know. Probably not. Especially when this is going to be going on YouTube, and YouTube, which has similar levels of access but is even easier to access because it's free. YouTube has its own child exploitation conversation that it's had to have in recent days, weeks and months even, and which is why we can't put clips that are made for children to playlists. It's why we can't have comments on family vlogs anymore. And so we are recognizing that there is an issue with people accessing child porn very easily, and having a film which easily and is very comfortable in sexualizing children kind of undoes its own hard work there. Now look, I have to recognize it was a movie that was released at some point, but however, a movie being released at Sundance, which is very exclusive, very small knit, very by invitation only, where you can watch the film once and then you make your decision and go along your merry way, is very different than having it watched on Netflix. So there's that. I also have to recognize that this is a clip and a movie which is supposed to, I'm trying to say this, how to say this in the nicest way possible. It's supposed to make us reconsider what our role is in child exploitation and over-sexualization. The conversations that we have around children and about children that they are aware of that we don't think that they are. This film doesn't necessarily do that. It's difficult. The film, I believe, has failed to make the point it wanted to make. And there are smarter people than me who are trying to have the conversation, and they're unable to because there's so much controversy around the film. The film may have fallen short of its expectation example, and I want to support this filmmaker because they've obviously tried to do something very good. But like I said, like my favorite quotes, we don't need to know the artist's intention, the work tells all. That's by Susan Sontag. What makes it worse is that this is a filmmaker that has apparently and previously done very good work on similar topics. So this is maybe just a misstep. And perhaps it was even a misstep that has only been misstepped because of how Netflix has marketed the film. If that's the case, Netflix has a lot to answer for. And Sundance, I would like to think, should be doing more to protect the movie, especially since it was shown there and awarded there and celebrated there. I would like to think Sundance has a case to make for the movie, and the filmmaker has unfortunately been drowned out by a lot of the controversy and criticism that the film has perhaps rightly received. So that's all I have time for today. I'm going to get to class now. I hope that you all have a fantastic few days and the rest of your lives, if I'm honest. And hopefully you'll see me in the next Ask Omi, because this one was a trip. Take care. See you around.